Good afternoon. We will call our November 18th, 2019 Board of Trustees meeting to order. At this time now, we'll entertain an adoption of the agenda and approval of consent agenda item.
Move to approve.
I do have one item that I would like to make a new motion on for consideration and the approval and adoption of the agenda.
I will second it if you want to go ahead and make your proposed amendment, sir.
Okay. Item E, that's listed on the agenda. Members of the board.
Oops, I'm sorry, which E?
6E.
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 Members of the board, Superintendent Postlewaite, and to all of the constituents of District 23. Over the course of the past few weeks, we have had time to analyze the concerns expressed from parents, students, and the community at large regarding the proposed merger of Minnie Hughes Elementary School and E.B. Ellington. While we as elected officials are charged with the legal responsibility under the law to create public policy, my goal is now and has always been to seek answers to questions and challenges as they arise. As one of the elected representative of District 23, it is my intention to err on the side of good judgment. And because of such, I must oppose the merger of Minnie Hughes Elementary School and E.B. Ellington Let me restate what I just said. I must oppose the merger of Minnie Hughes Elementary School and E.B. Ellington School at this time. Without question, public education is fraught with challenges, and we believe that we have an obligation to lead the way in planning the education of our children. Therefore, we are proposing to convene a select committee of representatives from the district, meet with the select committee of the Consolidated School Board to come up with an amicable resolution to address this current educational dilemma in District 23. And at this time, I so move and ask for a second with that recommendation.
Second.
Mr. Chair, are you asking that it be pulled, or would you like us to go ahead and cast our vote so that it is no longer on the table?
Yes, this new motion that I just
Would it be
indicated.
pulled?
Right.
That's when the pull is, that's what makes sure we pull it off the
Correct,
table.
correct.
Call the
with
question.
that new motion.
So to be clear, we are approving the agenda with that item pulled off the agenda.
Correct.
Moving item F, 6F,
Any questions?
6E, I know.
Questions, Mr. Chair? When
6E.
with that, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to the agenda also.
Okay, well, let's deal with this motion. I don't want to get this mixed up with anything else. And we can.
Fine, but after that, I just want to let it all know.
Okay, all right, I will acknowledge that you have a motion that you would like to make, but let's deal with the motion I just made. It was a second. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. And that motion passed unanimously. At this time now, we'll entertain a motion for, I'm sorry, Mr. Hollenshed, go ahead. You had a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After considering phone calls today from officials from the city of North Charleston, my representative, Senator Kempton, and my House members, Mack and Pendarvis, we would respectfully like to have item 6D delayed and removed from the agenda for today until we're able to meet with city officials from the city of North Charleston, House members and representative members of North Charleston, to talk about the impact and the situation dealing with accelerated programs for our schools.
All right, is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Reverend Collins have seconded. Are there any questions?
We're setting a meeting, what day we have a meeting set?
When the mayor comes off vacation, so we have to shut the meeting off.
So he's asking if we set up a meeting, also, Chairman, if we set up a meeting with the city officials and the elected officials to discuss the plans in North Charleston accelerated schools.
Everyone clear on the motion?
6G, correct.
Yeah.
6G.
Would like to speak that I oppose pulling that off of the agenda and would like to move forward on the rest of the agenda.
I agree.
We have a motion and a second.
Well, we'll have a motion and a second on the floor.
I'm confused. What are we voting?
We're voting on.
So the motion is, yeah. So the motion is item 6G that Mr. Hollingshad has requested be.
D.
What was
D. 6D.
D.
6D acceleration schools. 6D acceleration schools be pulled and so that a committee could be convened. Is that what you're saying, Reverend Collins?
Yes.
For further discussion
For further
on the
discussion with
acceleration
city of
schools
North
in North
Charleston
Charleston. All right. Reverend Collins, second that motion. Are you having questions? Hearing none. Julie, you ready? Okay. We ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion fails.
The minutes as written.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second for approval of the minutes. Please cast your vote. That motion passes 8-1.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Eric Mack as the board chair.
Been properly moved and second. Any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote.
Who's that, Matt?
That motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Kate Darby as vice chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote.
The crazy people. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, no, it's fine, it's fine.
That motion passes. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All right, properly moved and second. We're now into executive session. We'll now reconvene back into open session. At this time now, we ask for a moment of silence. We ask that you please stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag Thank you. At this time now, we'll have a motion on executive item 4A.
I move to approve A with the option for that student to remain for the rest of this school year without tuition.
Second.
Probably moving second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 4B.
I have a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
You want to go?
I move that we allow the request to remain for the remainder of this school year. Student can remain after this if they pay the tuition.
Second.
Okay, probably moving second. Are there any questions? I ask that you please cast your vote. Mr. Hollenshed?
Sorry, sir.
Okay, that motion passes. Item 4C.
I move to forward the formal complaint to the South Carolina Department of Education related to the contract.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Properly moving second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 4D.
Move that we forward the recommendation to the State Department of Education as priorly.
Second.
Properly moving second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes. Item 5A, public comment. Ms. Darby?
Yep. So typically, in our board meetings, we have 2 sessions for public comment. This one now is normally for items that were on the agenda. And then at the end of the meeting, we have comment for items that are not on the agenda. But since we have lots of folks here from Minnie Hughes, which is taken off the agenda, we're gonna do all the public comment right now. And just as a reminder, no public speaker may use public comment to discuss personnel matters or matters otherwise private or confidential. Speakers are to discuss issues, not individual. The chairman or designee is authorized to terminate any speaker's time who does not observe this policy. We have 2 minutes. We've got like 41 people to speak, so if everybody will stick to their 2-minute time, that would be great. I'll call out a few names, and y'all can line up here behind the podium. So first, we have Fran Clasby, Charles Glover, Rodney Lewis, and then Dr. Helen Frazier. So, Fran, if you'll get us started.
Good evening.
Oh, hold on a sec. Hold on, we're having a little mic issue. Fix it. There you go.
Good evening. I'm Frank Clasby, and I'm here on behalf of the District 20 Constituents School Board. And first off, I want to thank you all for your hard work, superintendent and board, and the staff. And with that, With that said, I want to keep it short and say that District 20 is opposed to inclusion of Burke High School in the advanced academic program at West Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Charles Glover, Rodney Lewis, Dr. Helen Frazier, Josephine Matthews, and Joquetta Wright.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I would just like to say we are more than glad for the decision that has been made to remove the elementary school from being closed in our district. A lot of families, I could say, probably be shouting right about now because of that removal. Because it means a lot to the school. It has a lot of history. We have a lot of kids that have excelled an advancement all the way through from elementary to high school. That lawyers, some are doctors, a lot of officers that came through the same one school. And it's a privilege to say, I thank you for what you have done. My understanding that there's a committee that will be in place, which I think that's going back to the constituent board, if I'm not mistaken, for some assistance in the future of the district. And I would like to say thank you, because what we were asking for is not to close the door in our face. It's just to listen to what the people have to say in our district. Just give us a chance to say, I'll give our opinions about what has been done or what needs to be done in our district. And then things would be a whole lot more easier. Everybody would have a whole lot, a better understanding of each other, because we live here. This is our community school. These are our kids. So all we was asking for is a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney Lewis, and then Dr. Helen Frazier, Josephine Matthews, Jaquetta Bright, and Daylin Simmons.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Lewis. I'm the chairman of District 10 Constituent School Board. I'm just going to read to you the letter that we sent forward to the board. Our letter reads, Dear School Board Trustees, the District 10 board members and I are writing regarding our concerns with our middle schools. I, like you, want to see all students in our community have the same opportunity to succeed. Unfortunately, not all our students have been given the same opportunities, and I believe we need to address these concerns immediately. Our board is currently in the rezoning process for our 2 middle schools. We have options and will continue to work together as a board to decide what we feel is best for our students, but the one thing that we cannot overlook any longer is the fact that one of our middle schools is less desirable than the other. I have had many parents reach out recently with concern about the rezoning. I have watched West Ashley Middle School be used as a last resort for many families. It has been the school that you go to if you can't get into any other school. Our board is proposing the following for West Ashley Middle School. Our middle school has 2 locations. The new building would house 7th and 8th grades. At the West Ashley building would be home of the 6th graders. The transition from grades 5 to middle school can be stressful and with children and parents. This solution could provide an opportunity to bring all of our elementary schools into one middle school program where the first year is focused on core classes as well as art, music, physical education, gifted classes, remedial classes, technology, and providing our students with the opportunity to transition into secondary education where the focus is on the importance of practicing responsibility and respect. A year of preparing these students for middle school success could pave the way for an early transition into a larger setting of 7th and 8th grade where you have even more opportunities available being next to the community high school and the new CAS. The District 10 board feels strongly that a 6th grade academy and a standalone 7th and 8th grade middle school will be beneficial to the West Ashley community. This will give every student in District 10 the equity they deserve from 6th grade through 12th grade. We are willing to do research on other schools in the country in 6th grade only and ones that are 7th and 8th grade. With your support and assistance, this would eliminate the decision of possibly removing feeder schools and drawing lines, one middle school, one high school, one community, preparing our children for a better and brighter future.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Dr. Helen Frazier and Josephine Matthews.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Helen Frazier, a former employee of the district, and I serve on the District 23 Board of Trustees. I came here tonight to mourn the death of yet another black school. Instead, I'm here to say thank you. We're so proud that you made the right decision. I also just returned from Liberia, Africa, where I talked to my elders and placed each of your names in vote so that we could go ahead and offer some solutions to the problem. I came back with black candles for each of you. Your name is on the candle. And we're going to place you on the altar, and we're going to make sure that you commit to our children and this community. We're going to light this candle, and we're going to be watching. And we expect you to do what's right for all children and not for just a select few. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Postlethwaite, board members. I am Josephine Matthews, Chair of District 23, a retired veteran nurse of 35 years. I would just like to say thank you. Thank you to the entire board for what you have done tonight. As you hear the community, we are cheering. My heart is lifted. You know, we were going through so much with this. I lost a faithful usher, goes to Bethany, and tears flow as I was going through all these meetings and drama. And I feel relieved right now that I can go to her wake and rejoice. You know, I thank y'all for what y'all done. Now we can get together and let's strategize and let's see what is best for Minnie Hughes and our community. Thank you so much.
Hello, board. I'm Jaquetta. This is my son, Dalen. We came to express gratitude for removing it. I know it's not over yet, but we appreciate the decision that you made tonight. So with that being said, I do challenge each and every one of you that's on the board tonight to take a trip to Youngs Island, visit Minnie Hughes Elementary School, sit with my son, sit with my nieces and my nephews, see the progress that they make, see the education that they endure. I challenge you, each and every one of you, Hollinstead, Mrs. Coates, Mr. Garrett, Reverend Collins, Dr. Postlethwaite, Reverend Mack, Mrs. Darby, Mr. Jeffrey, Ms. Green, and Mr. Frazier. I challenge you all to visit us in the Youngs Island Community Center to see that even though you pulled it, the decision still wouldn't make sense. Thank you.
Next is Sydney Van Bullock, and then Coleman Jenkins, Laura Russell, and Felicia Washington. Sorry.
Good evening, community members, families, parents, and board members. We are standing here today as a united front asking that the board delays their votes pertaining to Mission Critical. While some of the suggestions being made could potentially bring forth some much-needed positive change to the district, CCSD needs to take a breath for a moment and make a real effort to listen to the community. Ask yourself if you want to go down and hit the history books as the board that pushed through the agenda bought and paid for by the Coalition for Kids, or do you want to be known as the board that made a lasting impact on some of our most at-risk schools and families? The district will stand in front of you and say that they made an effort to listen to the community, but the truth is that many of the parents at these schools are just now learning about these changes. We plead with you to understand that if you want real meaningful conversation with the parents at a high poverty school, there are multiple things that were not taken into consideration. These meetings need to take place in the schools that are going to be affected. One of the biggest concerns for neighborhood schools is the lack of transportation. You cannot assume that all of these parents have the transportation to go across town for a meeting. Many of our parents also work jobs that are part-time, not 9 to 5. With these types of jobs, parents cannot just ask off at the drop of a hat. They need time to request off. I implore you to give these parents a true opportunity to first hear the details of this plan, have open dialogue, and ask questions. The listening session that I went to did not allow parents the opportunity to ask questions, and very little information was given. Why is this being pushed through so quickly with no transparency and very few details being given to the public? Well, I cannot speak for Hunley Park or Lambs. I am here to represent Goodwin Elementary School. We are more than just a school. We are more than just a community. We are a family. We don't ever claim to be perfect, but we have built a family that many schools dream of. Working for a Title I school is an honor that I am so thankful to have, but this job is more than just a job. This job is my life. These kids are my life, and these families are my family. Please, before you vote to close my school, I ask that you come out and meet with my family. Bring translators so that all of our families have an equal opportunity to hear and to be heard.
Thank you. Next is Coleman Jenkins, then Laura Russell, Felicia Washington, Elizabeth Hamilton, and then Madison McKenzie.
Good afternoon again. I'm Coleman Jenkins, and I want to say that we are thankful for the decision that you have reached, because the Minnie Hughes family neighborhood were in tears. They do not want our school closed. I speak in behalf of the Minnie Hughes community, the churches in the Minnie Hughes area, and also in behalf of the Baptist Hill High School Alumni Association. We appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Laura Russell, then Felicia Washington, and Elizabeth Hamilton.
Hi. My name is Laura Russell, and I'm the mother of 3 students currently attending a West Ashley Elementary School. Our family is firmly rooted in West Ashley and acutely aware of the necessity to effect positive change in our schools, especially at the middle school level. The phrase, proper planning prevents poor performance, is a favorite of my father's and one that repeatedly ran through my head at last week's meeting as I listened to 3 of your board members ask important questions regarding the motions that you'll vote on tonight. The best answers they received were vague. The worst were a shrugged, "We don't have that information." The current proposal to merge our middle schools is undoubtedly well-intentioned, but rushed. Before you vote today, I ask you to consider the research and data available and if it is sufficient to ensure the success of the roughly 1,200 students that this change will affect. Our support's in place regarding budget, transportation issues, teacher and student resources, advanced studies programs, and special needs programs. Shouldn't you know how we will merge these schools before you vote yes or no? As I was always taught as a child, and I teach my children now, to know the water's depth before you dive in. I urge you today to pause, collect adequate information, share it with concerned constituents, and most importantly, the educators that will be tasked with carrying out this change. Please properly plan before you make sweeping changes that at this juncture feel like a bit of a gamble. Thank you so much for your time. Please remember that West Ashley deserves better.
Next is Felicia Washington.
Good evening.
And some students with her.
I have one son and 3 grandchildren. One is not here, he's a 3-year-old, that attends Minnie Hughes. We came today to voice our opinions, but instead, because God's grace is sufficient, we say thank you for removing this proposal. My grandson attends the Head Start. That program has done wonders for him. He is 3 years old. He speaks on the vocabulary level of this 5-year-old. I just want to say thank you, and just leave Minnie Hughes alone.
All right, next is Elizabeth Hamilton, then I have Madison McKenzie and Kavaris Washington, who might have been, they were with you. Okay, then Monica Barden, Tanya Johnson, and Margie Washington, and then Tiffany Dees. So Elizabeth?
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Postlewaite, board. Thank you for being here. Once again, I'm here imploring the integrity, the transparency of this process has been unacceptable. We must allow light to shine on the special interests at play. There is a lot of money, millions of dollars on the line, as you well know, with these privatization partnerships, public partnerships, as you like to call them, or acceleration zones, or innovation zones, or I believe we began as effective approaches, and then it became comprehensive operations. In fact, on August 5th, this board here debated the timeline for proposals, acknowledging that these drop-dead dates are board-created constructs. You debated sufficient time for your bidders to prepare their proposals. You debated sufficient time for proposals to be brought individually before this board for public discussion. 3 of the 5 proposals so far received are from national chains, many with unsuccessful track records, financial questionable practices. Mr. Hollinshead asked, I believe, that these proposals be delayed for public input. It was denied. The legislation delegation asked that this be slowed down. It was denied. There is a sense of urgency. Be not fooled. There is only a temporary provision in the 2019-2020 state budget that allows for a school district to have more than one partnership school, labeled as a school of choice in the regulations. There is a proposal going before the Senate committee currently, this week, coincidentally. Email your senators. Make sure that multiple schools are not permitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Monica Barden and Tanya Johnson. All right, so Monica Barden, Tanya Johnson, Margie Washington, and Tiffany Dees. Am I in the right order? Okay.
Hi, my name is Monica Barden, and I have 3 children, 2 of which currently attend a West Ashley Elementary School. As a part of this community, I'm very aware of the need for positive change in our schools, especially for middle school. However, the vote for a middle school merger on the agenda today seems, to say the least, very rushed and poorly planned out, despite how well-intentioned it may be. 15 years ago, when Drayton Hall was converted to an elementary school, 5th and 6th graders were housed on one campus and 7th and 8th graders on another. This proved to be a disaster, and after only 2 years, it disbanded into traditional middle schools once more. What solid plans are there to prevent this from happening in the future again? What are the statistics that prove this to be a good move? My oldest child is petrified enough of the many changes that come with middle school in general. Having to start a new school 2 years in a row is even more intimidating. How does this scenario best benefit the child? Please, I implore you, wait to decide this major decision after there is a well-designed, solid plan in place that benefits all children involved. The decisions of this magnitude should be thought through with complete transparency to the general public, especially to the constituents it impacts the most. The letter read earlier by Rodney Bell is not how a large portion of the parents in West Ashley feel, and I respectfully ask for more time for research and proper plans to be put in place to benefit every child, not just one group or another. To be honest, as a very involved parent, even I was ignorant to this merger until just last week. Think of how many other parents' families are not being represented at this time due to lack of information about our own community. Please wait to decide this decision of this magnitude. Even the legislature is asking for you guys to slow down. Thank you.
Next is Tanya Johnson, Margie Washington, Tiffany Dees, and then Yasmin Mechanic.
Good evening. I'm Tanya Johnson, and I would like to start with revising what I had to say and applaud you guys for the motion today of removing Minnie Hughes from the table. But I ask that in the future that you consider removing it altogether, that we don't have to be back here again in the next couple of years with the same thing hanging over us. With that being said, I will still have those same concerns as a parent, a grandparent, and an ex-bus driver of 16 or 17 years of the transportation issues, of the overcrowding, and the school ground safety issues. Currently at E.B. Ellington, as it stands, there is 9 buses there now that's merging into one-way traffic with cars. And at 3 o'clock, sometimes I'm sitting on 17 just to pick up my grandsons. So we will still have this issue, and as the community grows, the issue will become greater. So I need you to consider in the future, if we come across this again, to do the same, please. And in light of all of the changing, I also do ask that you consider the same the same thing for the North Charleston area schools, because it's our kids, our schools, and they do matter. I do ask that each one of you get one of these. It's a Constitution book of rights that we all have equal rights to. Thank you.
Margie Washington, Tiffany Dees, then Yasmin Mechanic, and then Diane Powell.
Good afternoon. I am here on behalf of Minnie Hughes Elementary School. I've been an educator at Minnie Hughes for 37 years. The kids I see now are students that I've taught. They see me in the street, hey, Ms. Washington. But the thing is all about, if you have thought about closing Minnie Hughes, which should have never come to the table. But as you think about Minnie Hughes in the future, think about ways that you can help improve Minnie Hughes Elementary School. Think of things you can help us to make it a better place for people, parents and educators and parents to bring their kids to. This is what I want you to think about now. As you think about Minnie Hughes, think about making it the best place in Charleston County, helping us to be the best thing that there can be by helping us in all areas of special needs or academics or art and music and all those other achievements that we need in our schools. When you think of Minnie Hughes, think of how you can make it a better place.
Next is Tiffany Dees.
Good afternoon. First, I want to say thank you all for removing Minnie Hughes. As parent, family advocate, and a supporter of Minnie Hughes with kids, I have here with me Student Council President for Minnie Hughes, and he has something he would like to say to the board.
My name is Kenyon Mechanic, and I am a 5th grader at Minnie Hughes Elementary. As a Student Council President, I stand before you to represent my school. Charleston County School District closing Minnie Hughes down will impact my classmates and I, and also our school community, because this has been home to our community for a long time. Personally, it has been home to me since Head Start. Some of my peers have grandparents that faithfully drop their grandchildren off to school every day because they want their grandchildren a part of the family at Minnie Hughes and is there to pick them up. Minnie Hughes is really reliable for grandparents in the community of Hollywood. The board wants Minnie Hughes to merge in with E.B. Ellington. We have to think of our grandparents who are not able to drive or transport their grandchildren all the way to Avondale just for their grandchildren to be educated and attend school. We have to think about when the students go to E.B. Ellington and don't see teachers that they've seen all these years and has become a part of their daily lives. Our school is a passive school which we have worked hard for. Minnie Hughes has been a school and a part of the community for over 30 years. I fear the classrooms at Ellington are going to be too overcrowded with students, making it hard to achieve success. It will be so uncomfortable for the other kids. I have been taught to think before taking action. So I ask, will they be offered early Head Start for early learners like we do at Minnie Hughes? Will the teachers of Minnie Hughes Elementary School have a job? What about Ms. Berry's relationships with the students should know and love? My principal and I have a really good job. She does a lot of things for me. If I need anything, she does a lot of things for me if I need anything. How do you expect that relationship to continue? What's going to be done with the school? I'm a concerned and proud student of Minnie Hughes Elementary School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Yasmin Mechanic, Diane Powell, then Jimmy Moore, and Marsha Aline.
Good afternoon, Board. I just first want to say thank you again for making this decision to pull Minnie Hughes off the table for right now. I would ask that you consider to take Minnie Hughes off the table altogether. The closing of Minnie Hughes would be a great disgrace to the town of Hollywood. These children, when they go to that school, it's their home away from home. They're very familiar with the staff. They're very familiar with the community. It would be a great disservice to close Minnie Hughes. I would also ask that when you go to make these decisions, think about that little boy. Think about him standing here and him having to talk about his school being closed, how that affects him. All of us here, even you guys in your positions, it's for the betterment of the children, not ourselves. So I would ask that you continue to think about our community, our children, and their future. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're Diane Powell, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Diane, then Jimmy Moore, Marsha Aline, and then Jimmy Adams. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Postaway. Thank you for your hard work and endurance during this challenging time of change. My name is Diane Takata Powell. I'm standing before you today with two of my children who attend D20 schools to ask that you all, the board and CCSD staff, get on the same page regarding acceleration schools and please communicate more clearly on your intentions. My understanding is, one, you're seeking waivers from the state for flexibility for these acceleration schools, and two, you're seeking partners for these acceleration schools. But some of you, and many public school advocates, are saying acceleration schools are equivalent to public-private partnerships or charter takeovers, of which there is very little public support, especially by those of us who actually have children in these acceleration schools. I agree we must significantly and sustainably improve district student outcomes. If you move forward with the acceleration schools, then please allow representatives from each school's SIC or PTSA or Title I planning committees, the community, to have a seat at the table so we can be engaged and involved in the process of selecting these partners for our schools. Allow us to have input into the decisions that will decide the fate for our children's education. Include us, engage us, reestablish trust with us. Give us a seat at your table, please. It is our children's lives that are at stake. Thank you.
Next is Jimmy Moore, then Marsha Aline, Jimmy Adams, and Reverend Thomas Dixon.
Yes, I'd like to thank you for the proposal you made also, as other people have. But even after the proposal is over and we came together to decide, we don't want to see the same thing happening again 2 years from now. I know Charleston County School District have tricks up their sleeves. And if all of that happened, you're going to see me here again. And not only here, wherever it's necessary that we have to be. I came here to argue, but the proposal kind of took the wind out of my sail. But what was going on is you're draining the black community. No offense, but you're draining the black community of education. And we love our kids too. We love our kids too. Many who don't need to merge with no E.B. Ellington. The distance is too far for our babies. It's been said 100 times here, but we'll keep saying it. We'll keep saying it. And I'd like to thank everyone for their prayer, because prayer goes a long way. If you don't believe it, prayer came ahead of us and caused that proposal. and we know it. So if you don't believe in prayer, if you don't believe prayer works, start praying. Amen. Start praying. Minnie Hughes is a good school, and we don't want to lose it. Don't close it. I like to have the names of some of the board members on there, so I don't want to be your enemy. I want to be your friend, so we can talk, and I'll try to discuss these things. I don't have a name or a number for any of you guys there, and I would like to have that. I'm going to speak to one of the board members and see could I get the chain of command of you guys.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Moore.
you.
Somebody on the staff can direct you to our website that has all those names and phone numbers for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Marsha Aline.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you. Tonight's a victory for Minnie Hughes, but our District 23 community, we still stand strong with every other district that's affected by your sweeping changes. We stand with the Coalition for Educational Transparency. For that group, we thank you. And we will stand strong again with other communities that are affected by these changes. And I just want to share a story with you. I'm a graduate of Minnie Hughes. I'm a graduate of Baptist Hill High School. In '89, roughly '89, '90, I heard that John Graham Altman, school board member, called students in my community brain dead. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University. I'm a proud HBCU grad of that university. I was in the Air Force ROTC program. Fast forward to my career in the Air Force 15 years later, when I learned that I made the rank of lieutenant colonel. I called my husband. The second phone call was to Mr. John Graham Altman. I told him that this brain-dead girl made it to be a lieutenant colonel. I wanted him to know. I wanted him to know the impact of not believing in students in District 23 and how that motivated me. No child should have to stand here before you to beg for their basic human right to have an education. I was that kid. I graduated with not only with my bachelor's degree, but I have a master's degree in human resource management and a Master of Science degree in strategic leadership from the Air Force Institute of Technology. That didn't come by easy. I didn't get the foundation I should have gotten from Charleston County School District. And that's why I'm standing here fighting for every student in this county to have a decent education.
Thank you, Board. My name is Jimmy Adams. I live at Holly Street in North Charleston. I'm concerned about the Malcolm C. Hersey Montessori School, the expansion and future growth of that. I just didn't want to know if it was going to affect anybody's property on Holly Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Reverend Thomas Dixon, and hold on if I can switch the page. Then after Pastor Dixon, it's Erica Coakley, Cheryl Cromwell, and then Barbara Middleton. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's been a while, and I don't relish the fact that I'm here again today at all. Let's make it perfectly clear that had the voice of the people been heeded when they came here last week and this week again, had that voice been heeded when these plans were being made already, we might not have to be here about Minnie Hughes. But the voice of the people has not been listened to. In the same way, the disrespect of our legislators was just once again shown by this august body, by not giving them the ear that they requested. These are our state legislators who represent us just in the same capacity that you are supposed to represent us, just to give them an ear on the issue and delay moving forward. What's the rush? Well, although there are those here who are happy to give you thanks for so graciously saying we're going to put it on the table as far as closing Minnie Hughes, I'm not that one. I withhold from thanking you until we no longer have to worry about our children and their future being sold on the auction block of privatization. I withhold from thanking you until it is no longer necessary to come before this board in the fight for the well-being of our children. I withhold from thanking you until you either do your jobs for all children in Charleston County, or you resign from that position. Thank you.
Next is Erica Coakley.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Erica Coakley. First of all, I always told myself if I was ever given a platform, I'd let my voice be heard. I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. I grew up in the public school systems. I moved into Charleston about a little over 16 years ago. Coming through the city, I came through Mount Pleasant, I came through Goose Creek, and my eyes were wide, and I oohed and I ahed. And the closer and closer I got to downtown North Charleston, the knots in my stomach. Because in my heart, I could already see the inequities and the lines that were drawn already. Listening to that baby talk, the only thing I can say is listen to the kids, because I was one of those children that came through that system. Through the school system, I do know, and I paid attention, that most of my classmates were predominantly white. As I looked and paid attention at my black classmates, I realized that my reading material was the same as my white classmates, but not the same as my black classmates. So while I'm sitting in my classroom, I was that student who always raised their hand. And I was always on the edge of my seat because I knew the answer, and I had my voice, and I wanted to let them know what I knew. And after years, not days, not weeks, not moments, but after years of being overlooked by my teachers, I actually wondered if my teachers were actually meant to teach me or if they were waiting me out to fail. By the time I got to high school, I graduated, not one, but 2 high school diplomas with a 3.5 on a 4.0 GPA scale that none of my teachers helped me achieve. Had I had the same support that that young man had, I would have went off and did the same thing that that young lady did and went off and got all my bachelor degrees. But guess what? I didn't get those degrees, but I have raised 3 children in CCSD school system. One that I told them I would not allow you all to open those windows of opportunity, because when I saw Brentwood closing and James Simmons closing and that brand new prison, I drove my son in my car and I showed him what you had to offer. So when I stand here today, I stand here as a parent who those transparencies that nobody else saw, I picked up on and I paid attention to. And I made sure not to allow my children go through that. So yes, right now I do have a child at a chartered school, but guess what? It's no better than the rest of them. And I also have a child at a white poor school, but guess what? That's no better than the rest of them either. So as he said, I'm not thanking anybody for not doing anything until you all continue to give us all equal education. Thank you.
Next is Cheryl Cromwell, then Barbara Middleton, Jennifer Hayes, and then Kennell Mechanic.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Cromwell. I'm the Director of Education Programs for Charleston Rise. Charleston Rise is an education advocacy nonprofit designed to give parents, grandparents, and community members the knowledge, network, and tools to advocate for their children. We're here today partly because we attend every school board meeting, understanding the importance of power that rests with the decision makers in our district, but mostly because we find it necessary that the voices and the presence of these like-minded individuals are heard. We're here today to say, first, parents care about their children, but that statement does not relieve parents of their contribution to the educational success of their kids. Secondly, there is enough blame to go around, but ultimately, the responsibility of our children's ability to read, write, and do math rests on our education system, because parents are legally obligated to send their children to school. And lastly, inequity has created the achievement and opportunity gap that has to be eliminated. Not eliminated, eradicated. The current unacceptable, borderline criminal achievement gap between black and white children on 3rd grade SC Ready ELA math assessments yield a 50-point spread minimally. This is living proof the systemic progress of policies and practices which excuse me, which promoted racism and segregation, set forth before any of us in this room were born, are doing exactly what it is not designed to do, and that's educate affluent white children. We are all victims of a multi-generational curse that brainwashed us into thinking that improving upon what we already have will yield different results for all children. That's simply not true. Let us leave you with this. You have to create the change our children need, so do something different. Don't be afraid to do something different, and if that different doesn't work, try something else. Thank you. We are Charleston Rise.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Middleton. I come here just to say thank you for pulling it from the agenda tonight. We know it's not going to be finished here, but I would like to just say thank you. I come here as a grandparent and how it will impact the young man that spoke. I came here with a whole new agenda. I had notes written down. As you see, I came up here with nothing now. I think he said it all. I was concerned about the quality of education, the distance our children would have to commute, and I also was just concerned about the Head Start program. Where would these children go? I meet grandparents on a daily basis when I go to drop off my 3-year-old. I meet more grandparents than I do parents because the parents have to go to work and commute, and with the distance, thank God there are some grandparents that can step in and help our young parents. And I'd like to tell you that Minnie Hughes, and I'm going to tell you this little quick story because I had a 5-year-old that went there in kindergarten. She wasn't reading, but when I walked in that class and I told her what she was doing, Miss Small says, "Don't worry about it. By November, she'll be reading." From August to November, my 5-year-old was reading fluently. And 3 months. She came to this board down here. I brought her to 75 Calhoun Street in first grade to read before a committee as a super reader. She came from Minnie Hughes. She's now a 15-year-old sophomore. So I thank you all for pulling it, and I thank you all for forming a committee that we can follow up with it. Amen?
Thank you. Next is Jennifer Hayes, then Canal Mechanic, Sherry East, Sarah Phillips, and then Larry Kabrowski.
Board members and superintendent, thank you for your time and attention. My name is Jennifer Hayes, and I'm here tonight as a resident of West Ashley and a mother of 2 children in the District 10 schools. I am here to ask for your support in voting no on the second vote to consolidate the West Ashley middle schools. I am not opposed to this proposal, and I certainly support the goal of equity for all of our children. But I cannot be in support of this action yet, as not enough research or thought has occurred to ensure a successful outcome for all of our children. I attended the District 10 constituent board meeting last Thursday in order to learn more information about this plan, and the board members and the district staff were not able to answer my questions. This idea has not been developed beyond the idea phase, and while it might be the right solution for our children, there has been no study of advantages and disadvantages, no analysis of community or teacher support, among other basic planning items. Please vote no at this time for the West Ashley Middle School Consolidation Plan so that we can ensure that a thoughtful and well-informed decision that is in the best interests of our children is being made. Thank you for your continued efforts on behalf of our children.
Thank you. I'm guessing that Canal Mechanic is a student, and then Sherry East.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have Sherry East, then Sarah Phillips, and then Larry. All right, Sherry East, is a canal mechanic? There's a star, so I think that might be a student. Oh, he already spoke, got it. All right, Sherry East is next, then Sarah Phillips, then Larry Kabrowski.
Hi. Good evening, Superintendent and Chairman Mack and members of the Charleston County School District Board of Trustees. My name is Sherry East, and I'm a high school science teacher that has taught in the public schools of South Carolina for 27 years. I'm currently the South Carolina Education Association president, and I'm in my second year. We appreciate your efforts to provide quality education for all the students that you serve in this district. While change is hard to implement, major changes have an increased need for community acceptance. We need to include the parents, the teachers, the community leaders, and their elected officials in these decisions. Success will only come if all these stakeholders are working together for the common goal of providing what's best for the students. It is not only what you do that matters, but it's how you do it. Our ask tonight is simple, that you foster an environment of collaboration and transparency with all the stakeholders as you move forward. Please do your research on your charter schools as you move forward. If you move forward with that process, I can tell you a lot of stories from our state affiliates that have went down that road and wish they hadn't. So thank you for your time and attention to this important topic. The SCA is willing to assist in any way possible and would like to work with you to improve the academic achievements of the students for Charleston County. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Phillips, then Larry Kabrowski, then Kashawn Mitchell.
Hello, I'm a parent of 2 elementary students at Memminger and a member of the School Improvement Council. A little more than a week ago, Michelle Simmons met with a small group of Memminger stakeholders to go over the details for the plan to implement a K-2 advanced academic program at our school. And I know the plan is not fully fleshed out yet until it's approved by the board, but I would like to say that it does sound like it could be a good thing for the Memminger student body if it's implemented the way that it was described to us in that meeting. But I would like to request on behalf of the Memminger SIC that we and the teachers be involved in any further planning. I can't think of anyone in a better position to describe exactly what is needed to foster student success than the teachers. I would also like to request that Memminger be removed from consideration for becoming an acceleration or a partnership school. I think it's important to focus on implementing the new advanced academic program with fidelity and introducing the additional variables that would come along with becoming an acceleration or partnership school would only serve to muddy the water. And can we please have a principal? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Larry Kabrowski, then Kashawn Mitchell, then Lisa Covert, and then Reagan Dubois Morris. So Larry, you're up.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity, and I want to say that it was a great honor to be asked to represent the community of Minnehaha and a wonderful group of people, and we thank you for your decision today. I want to especially thank Chairman Mack. It takes a big man to change his mind, and in many ways we saw America working tonight. You made one decision to vote to shut it down not too long ago, and you reversed yourself, and I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to the people. But also, as you think of going forward and what you're going to do with other neighborhood schools, think of what you heard tonight and amplify that many times. In every one of those community schools, there's people just like you met tonight who love their neighborhood schools. And when you remove neighborhood schools from the system and you merge things, you limit the ability of students to get there on time early. You limit their ability to participate after school and of the parents to be involved. And as you look to see what happens when you merge things without much planning, I ask each and every one of you to consider what happened 3 years ago when you merged Liberty Hill Academy and Daniel Jenkins Academy. I ask each of you to study what has transpired at those schools and come to your own conclusions. And I think you'll find that that is an unmitigated disaster for the people that work there in every other way. So please don't rush things. I'm also here tonight on behalf of Representative Brown. I'd like to say it's good to know we have people representing us and our legislator like him. He's everything you want in somebody, and he thanks you profoundly for what you did tonight and listening to the voice of the community. And he looks forward to working with you in the as you have that committee to decide what to do. And I urge you strongly, you heard very eloquent, passionate voices tonight. Include the people that you've heard in the process, because it's their children. In all over Charleston County, people in their community schools love their children as much as the people in Many U's, and please listen to them before you rush into things. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kashawn Mitchell, and then Lisa Covert.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. I was actually prepared for this decision. I want to thank you all for it again. One thing that you mentioned was creating a collaborative effort between the board members and the community. And in preparation for that, I've actually created somewhat of an improvement plan, basically taking from some of the district level standards and school level standards, and some of the things that I would like to work with the community in partnership with the district is creating an individual vision statement. I know that as school board members and the superintendent, you're tasked with larger objectives as far as needs. But with Charleston County being such a large and diverse district, I'm sure you all will agree that we have unique needs in Many Hues. So I think it's important that we create our own vision, creating our own climate and culture, methods for community engagement. We want to talk about fiscal management, also intervention and enrichment resources and activities. A lot of things that we talk about involves intervention and talking about low-performing kids. But one thing that's often overlooked is we have high-performing students in the district, and Marcia and others are examples of that. And I think that if we had resources and activities involved for enrichment activities for the high-performing kids, a lot of parents won't want to take their kids away from the region. That's why the attendance falls. I think at one time we had like maybe 700 plus students that were moving out of District 23, attending schools in West Ashley and other areas. We want to provide resources for curriculum instruction to empower all of the stakeholders in the area, the parents, our constituent board members, teachers, of course, and everyone else, so that they can help you help them. And finally, we want to talk about accountability measures and benchmarks. When we set these goals together, we can create benchmarks for improvement, and then if some things aren't done, we can talk about different strategies moving forward. But that is my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lisa Covert, then Reagan Dubois Morris.
Hi, as some of you might recall, I've been before the board before asking for some positive examples of some of the partnerships that might come out of these solicitations for interest. I still haven't received any positive examples from the board members when I emailed to ask for them, so I decided to take a closer look at one of the solicitations for interest under consideration, one from an organization that I have read very concerning things about, Noble Education Initiative. This organization is essentially a spinoff of a for-profit organization called Charter Schools USA, which was ostensibly created to dodge the negative reputations that for-profit charters have gained across the nation. The solicitation is full of many of the same vague language and euphemisms that the superintendent has used in past meetings to describe acceleration zones and partnerships. NEI has a very short existence. It was only founded in 2017, again, ostensibly because of a way to sort of get around the negative reputations of the for-profit organization that most of its employees used to work for. Because of that, because of its very short existence, the very positive statistics that it provides to demonstrate its effectiveness in schools that it's already partnered with are really statistically insignificant. They haven't been around enough to show us that these results are long-term, that they provide lasting improvements for our children and for our schools. By looking at this one example, it's given me even more pause about the idea of partnerships. I don't have time to look at all the examples. I hope that you all just slow down the process, vote no on the current round of partnerships, cut off future solicitations, and work with the student improvement councils to do things that we're already doing and trying to work on to improve the schools. We don't need to bring in people from outside entities. What they're proposing is not that different from some of the things that are already happening and that some of the things people have already asked for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, I'm going to call out a couple names, Reagan Dubois Morris, then Elvin Spites, then Francis Beloit, and then Jesse Williams.
Hi, my name is Reagan DeBose Morris. Thank you for being here this evening. I'm the mother of 2 children in District 10.
Process is the main issue with the proposed merger and splinter of middle schools in District 10. While many teachers, parents, administrators, and residents participated in mission-critical discussions this summer, rejecting the merger, and attended the community listening sessions this fall, there was no explicit communication that starting in September, a rezoning process would be undertaken in preparation for the opening of the new C.E. Williams campus in 2020. The equity that the constituent District 10 board sought to achieve by examining the attendance zones and redrawing them on either side of 526 or 61 were conversations that occurred at 2 meetings in September and October without community engagement. When it was determined that an easy solution to rezoning could not be formulated, mainly due to a lack of a second quality middle school building, a proposal was forwarded on 10/31 to this board to study the merger of the middle schools. Rezoning processes are not easy, and we are not sure why this was rushed through without community input representing the support of the parents in West Ashley, and this was not the case. Constituent District Board 10 could not easily rezone the middle schools, so they are pushing the burden onto school administrators, teachers, students, and parents to make it work without a plan. The further fragmentation of the middle school system in West Ashley will not only serve to limit the pipeline of students to the high school level and result in achievement issues, especially as C.E. Williams will open at capacity or overcrowded, and West Ashley Middle will still be operating in one of the worst buildings in the county for many years to come. This process has been tried previously with consolidations of 5th and 6th graders, followed by the creation of middle schools that further created inequity due to a lack of infrastructure investment. We demand a rezoning process be conducted that accounts for the immediate need of a new West Ashley Middle School building with input from the whole community prior to decisions being made by the constituent board and sent to this board for implementation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alvin Spice, then Francis Boyd, then Jesse Williams.
Get you all dressed up.
So listen, I want to say this. I hope the people, and I want to say this to the Mimi Hughes, right? I want y'all to watch what's going on here in Charleston County. What they're talking about is combining 2 schools. We're talking about combining West Ashley Middle School and C.E. Williams Middle School. And you're hearing all these problems that's supposed to come out with studies. The only difference between these 2 middle schools is West Ashley Middle School it has 541 kids at 60% black. C.E. Williams Middle School has 664 at 38% black. The only problem they have with these magnet and charter schools is if they lose their magnet and charter, that the number of black kids attending these schools will go up. That's why you're hearing this, we need more studies. Let me give you some other facts that you did not know, because I'm going to tell you the truth. The reason why your school is in danger, you have low enrollment. This is not being picked on because y'all black. This is any school that has 245 students or less is in danger of closing. But you need to ask the kids, the students and the parents at Low Country Leadership, why at their school, 523, and you only have 75 black kids. And that's in a predominantly black neighborhood. How does that happen? But we got the same problem going on here. Let me read to you some of the prestige schools that they're talking about here. Buse Academy, 486, 38 black. Lang Middle School, 1,258 students, 135 black. Montessori, 255, 15 black. Ashley River Creative Arts, it sits in the middle of a black neighborhood. 622 students, 64 black. This is not coincidence is what's going on. These are not coincidences. These are being done systematically for our kids. We're not getting the education that they're being offering. And the problem that they have is if they lose their magnet school, guess what? You're fighting for your school. If they lose their magnet and their charter, they don't lose teachers, they don't lose the building, they don't lose the curriculum. The only thing happens is that they have to have the neighborhood kids come to their school. Unfortunately, the neighborhood kids for them are black. That's why you have people who live in North Charleston High School, they have a low enrollment in the middle Park Circle, which is 80% white. I'm sorry, I'm gone. All right, so I'm gone. I just want y'all to know. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Good job. Thank you. Francis?
Okay.
Follow that.
Yeah, really. Did you put me behind him on purpose? Listen, it wasn't too long ago that nobody wanted to go to C.E. Williams. And now we're fighting over slots for C.E. Williams because West Ashley Middle School isn't supposed to be good enough. Well, tell me this. If West Ashley Middle School is an undesirable school, how is sending every sixth grader there going to make it better? Show me the plan for that, and we'll go for it. But until then, you all get an incomplete. You need to go back, you need to do your research, you need to cite your work, and you need to show us what is going to happen, because we can't accept a promise based on a promise that's vague and without any detail. So we want to work with you in the community. We realize that we have 2 different middle schools, and we want to make all of those middle schools good. We really need 3 middle schools in West Ashley. So let's step back for a second and have the community brought to the table. I don't have anything else to add with what folks have added already. I just want to leave with one thought. And the question I have that haunts me every night is, why is it that we have these incredibly successful schools that we fail to replicate across the district? Why? Why can't we do that? Thanks.
Jesse Williams is next, then Jesse, let me just call Dr. Carol Temple, then Eric Jackson, and then Natalie Bennett.
Good evening.
Right, Jesse, you're on.
Good evening. I want to speak about the acceleration schools that you all want to vote on. First of all, the acceleration schools has been put up, a lot of those schools have been put under state supervision, including, I believe, North Charleston High School. And so the state delegation asked for you all to slow down and let them look at these, what these proposals are. You have 15 schools, and a lot of those schools are under supervision by the state. So I joined with the state delegation, and I asked that you all, the board, pause on the vote on these items, just as delegation asked you to pause on these votes. Because ultimately, the board here is under the state of South Carolina, ultimately. So the reason I asked you all to pause on this is because, once again, we have some programs that work in Charleston County School District. For example, I remember when I was going around with Priscilla Jeffrey and looking at Garrett Academy of Technology. We had a technology trade school in Charleston County that got double gold standard ratings and when it was improving, and the board members here didn't even know why they were closing it. It's still open right now. So instead of acceleration schools, let's look at what's working and keep Garrett open. I have a petition here of 1,200 signers with comments I want to submit to the board here, why we should keep Garrett, the trade school, open. And we know we need trades. The Chamber of Commerce said that we need trades. Why are we going to wait on a CAS that we don't even know it's gonna work? We don't have the data on it. We don't know how they're gonna give rise to this program, but we have a school that works right now. So I ask you to pause the vote from items 6D, items A through K, I believe it is, so that the delegation can look over this and so the community can look over this, so that the community members in North Charleston can look over this, so the community members in downtown Charleston can look over this. And we're going to be watching who votes on what, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Mr. Williams. Dr. Carol Temple, and after Carol is Eric Jackson, then Natalie Bennett.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Postaway. I'm speaking tonight for the Quality Education Project, whose purpose is to advocate for equity, access, and excellence for all students. The recent proposal to engage in partnership operators to improve public education in Charleston County is a problematic and deceptive approach to solve our educational needs. QEP believes that supporting private partnership operators will result in failure. From the first list of approved solicitations, it's obvious that the district is considering 4 management companies for the Title I schools in the Acceleration District that are intent on making a 5 to 15% profit from our tax dollars. Yes, we know and you know what our best practice is for our schools, and that's what we need to focus on. However, increasing the number of partners the district works with adds an unmanageable layer of bureaucracy and opens the district to selecting partners who are mismanaging schools in other districts. As we research the companies that are submitting proposals, we are finding all kinds of instances where there are problems in other communities and other school districts that are laden with lawsuits. Finally, use the valuable resources to address the deeper systemic issues. New community partners are needed to advocate for our students, but these are community partners, not business partners, instead of the third-party partnerships that ultimately privatize our public schools and profit from managing our Title I schools. The district should work to lobby legislators in Columbia to raise per-student expenditures, repeal Act 388, support the SC for Ed teachers who are demanding solutions that work in the schools, and work with families to improve traditional schools. Vote no on the accelerated schools proposals.
Following Carol, we have Eric Jackson, Natalie Bennett, Latanya Miller, then Paul Bowers, and then Mayor Dunmeyer. That's it. All right, Eric.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask that all the D20 parents please stand. Anybody that's representing D20. And as you look around the room, you see a diverse crowd of parents. And this is due to the work of me and my colleague here, Mr. Ann Jean Davis, truly doing grassroots works. This is the SIC of Burke High School, the Title I Committee Chairman, which I am, inviting the community to come and ask how we can make our high school better. And I think if you go into the overflow room, you will see more parents that are willing to work with this board and this district on making schools right ourselves. We are in the schools daily. We are working in the community daily. Why do we need to bring in third-party operators that don't know our kids, that don't know our parents, will not respect the board ultimately to run our schools? Please just take a look around the room. Do the work. Talk to the people. We know change is needed. We want education better for all kids, not a select few, because when you look at the 15 schools on the accelerated list, I mentor a kid that's not on the accelerated list, that's 2 and 3 grade levels behind. It's going to take community help getting our kids where we need to be, and we don't need no outsiders mandating what we do to make our kids better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Natalie Bennett.
Good evening. The decision to pump the brakes on closing of Minnie Hughes and merging with E.B. Ellington demonstrates a real understanding by this board that the proposal would have major unforeseen consequences and thus deserved more evaluation. It would be dangerously presumptuous, however, to think that it is the case for only the proposal. There are sweeping changes on the agendas for tonight and next month, and some of them might very well be motivated by noble ideas. However, their import and scope are precisely why solutions to these issues need to be worked out ahead of time and not in real time. Our kids and schools are worth it. We as parents here tonight believe it. Our legislators believe it. I believe it as a North Charleston CCSD teacher, and I think deep down you do too.
Thank you. Next is Latanya Miller, then Paul Bowers, and then Mayor Dunmeyer.
Hi, my name is Natanya Miller. I am a current educator, although no longer with Charleston County, due in part to some of the decisions that have been made by y'all. I want to talk to you about the acceleration zone, which is anything but best for our children. Number one, the premature and non-transparency to vote on putting 15 schools into an acceleration zone without vetting specific plans for schools, one by one, within each school community is a problem. Number two, segregating majority African-American lower-income schools into a turnaround zone creates a two-tier school system that has failed in other parts of the country. Number three, some of the third-party applicants are nonprofit charter chain operators with close ties to for-profit charter operators. This is no longer public education. Number four, there are ways that nonprofit charter operators can skim profits from our children. Number five, CCSD has not been transparent with its public-private partnership with Meeting Street Schools. Why would we trust you to have more? I was at Burns when Meeting Street came in. Number six, hundreds of thousands of untraceable dark money dollars were pumped into our school board race last year. We question who will be benefiting from getting control of millions of dollars in a lump sum per pupil tax dollars. Number 7, the current positions of our teachers, principals, and school staff would not be guaranteed at a public-private partnership school. In fact, you've lost many amazing teachers due to what you've done already. Number 8, teachers would have to reapply for a job with a third-party operator and would lose all state rights and benefits, one of the perks of being a public school educator. Number 9, instead of farming operations out, Charleston County should give appropriate support to schools as determined by the educators who work there, the School Improvement Council, the PTA, PTO members, and the Title I school coordinators. You employ us, you trust us to teach these children, trust us to know what's best.
Thank you.
Hello again. I'm Paul Bowers. I'm a parent of 3 living in North Charleston. 2 kids in Charleston County Public Schools. 1 will start next year, and we're looking forward to it. I also covered this school district as a reporter for 3.5 years. I'm here tonight to talk about item 6D on your agenda, the acceleration schools. And as usual, I have questions. 1, whose idea was this? Granted, I did not attend every one of the North Charleston input sessions, but I don't recall parents or teachers clamoring for public-private partnerships or for outside groups to be brought in to take control of schools. It does ring familiar, though, because back in 2016, a handful of billionaire donors and charter school advocates and lobbyists pushed for a turnaround district statewide. They pushed for this despite the fact that similar efforts had done poorly in Michigan and Tennessee. It ultimately failed. It didn't pass into state law, and so they turned their attention locally to Charleston. 2, how will you choose the partner organizations? Depending on the selection process and the rubric you choose, this policy could be a real financial boon to for-profit education companies with a proven track record of failure. 3, will teachers in these schools have to reapply for their own jobs? I feel compelled to ask because I know a lot of excellent teachers in the schools that you're talking about. 4, what policy waivers do you have in mind? The plan as written would open the door for unspecified policy waivers, which in the past have been used for things like expanding the school day and school year, which are ideas that have some merit and some backing. These waivers have also been used to deprive teachers of their employment protections, which is not research-backed practice, but is rooted in anti-worker, anti-teacher ideology.
Can you wrap up, please?
Sure. Thanks for hearing me out, and please consider carefully what you do tonight. Thank you.
Good evening to our superintendent, to our board chair, and our board members. My name is John Dunmire III. I'm the mayor of the town of Hollywood, South Carolina. I stand firm. Let me put my glasses on. I stand firm on Minnie Hughes remaining open. I'm standing here tonight to thank you all for tabling it. And when you go back around that round table, I like to be there. Minnie Hughes is not a failing school. Minnie Hughes has been there for 50 years, and in this audience, we have graduates from Minnie Hughes that has retired from the military in the rank of colonels, sergeant majors, and being myself from the St. Paul Parish, I just retired from you all, 22 years of leadership. So I stand before you with my back not bent, but standing straight up. Thank you all.
Thank you. Let me just say one thing. That ends our public comment, and I think I speak on behalf of the whole board to really appreciate particularly the students that came out tonight and heard from a lot of you, and we appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments.
You have a break.
Oh,
All right.
Reverend Mack, can we have a quick 5-minute break?
Okay. Okay, we will recess for 5 minutes, allow the boards an opportunity to stretch their legs. Order, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the transition of Mary Ford Elementary to the Early Childhood and Family Engagement Center.
Second.
Item 6A has been properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Please state your question.
Talk fast, man.
The issue with the Mary Ford and Shakora, number one being that, but let me say this, I'm not opposed, no constituents opposed to having a better early childhood program. In fact, Mary Ford has one of the better programs around, they have their own separate building for early childhood already. And they have, so some kids are there already, and there's still room for more kids. But shall we expand the early childhood at the expense of children that are already struggling? They'll be transitioning from a school that's near the bottom to go into a school that's one from the bottom. In other words, Shakora is in the bottom 1% of all schools in the state of South Carolina, all elementary schools. Shakora is in the bottom 1%. So then if we're dealing with education and dealing with children, how do we serve children and educate children and better serve them? By placing those children in a lower performing school and calling at the expenses of early childhood education. To me, it doesn't make sense. If we're going to expand early Head Start and child development, let's start with the money. Let's see that we have the money to fund it properly. Right now, it's not properly funded already.
Okay, Reverend Collins, what's your question?
My question is, can we delay this action until we get all the finances in place to see where we're going and what's needed to properly fund the program and to make it successful? And what can we do to benefit those children that are in Mary Ford and Shakora School now? How would they be better off? How would they be better served by putting them under one roof?
So there's currently a motion on the floor that has been seconded for approval. So if that motion doesn't pass, then you're more than welcome to entertain a new motion.
Yes, sir. And I think also the community of Mary Ford and Shakora haven't had any input whatsoever. They don't even know we're discussing this. And I think it'd be disingenuous to move forward tonight with a vote without any parent discussion, any community discussion. That they don't know. We've had some engagements, but no one understands that this means merging Shakora and Mary Ford schools to make one school out of them. That's true. You just can't do that with kids that are struggling already in Title I schools. You know, if this is good for our kids in North Charleston, it should be good for the kids in Mount Pleasant also. In West Ashland and other places, it should be good for kids in Isle of Palm. It can't just be good for black kids only. So I'm asking us tonight to wait and not approve this.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there any further questions, discussion? All right, so we're properly moving second for approval as outlined. Please cast your vote.
I have one more quick question, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that motion passes.
In the original motion, wasn't there some writings that the finances would come forth first by December? Trying to come to the committee to hold, but by December, we would get a picture of the finances, what we're looking at for the early childhood, for this to work.
No.
No, that was not in the
I think that wasn't part of the
That wasn't
motion.
in that motion.
That's
No.
not part of the motion.
We have the minutes.
Wasn't part of your motion, Chris?
No.
We discussed the fact that we would get the numbers back later on in the year as they were working on them. But in this case, I think you've got people already being served. The money's going to follow the child for the program they're in. We've just got to get the total resource cost together once we know it. So that was not part of this motion.
Okay, all right.
Okay, item 6B.
I move to include in the 2020 sales tax referendum a recommendation to build a new elementary complex combining Hunley Park, Goodwin, and Lands, and convert either Hunley Park or Goodwin into a universal 4K, 5K preschool and family engagement center.
Properly moving second. Are there any questions?
Again, I echo what Chris.
I'm sorry.
I echo what Chris is saying. You know, it's just amazing. You know how I'm going to vote.
that when we deal with North Charleston, we deal with North Charleston issues. You have North Charleston members that do have no input in this whatsoever. You have people in other areas of our county that's weighing in on North Charleston education. Again, that's why my phone call today from my mayor and other mayors have talked about deconsolidation and breaking up because our voice isn't heard. We're not at the table.
All right, hearing no further questions, I'm sorry, Reverend Collins?
Now, again, we're speaking about...
Are you asking a question or making a statement?
I'm doing both.
All right.
In the previous motion, we voted to combine Mary Ford and Shakur, predominantly black schools, saying we're expanding early childhood, which already had only funded at 60% now. So now we're taking 3 more predominantly black schools to merge them into 1 school. So instead of having 5 minority Title I schools, we're looking at 2 now in a quick motion with no community input, no discussion, which goes against board policy. How do the kids benefit from this? How do the parents benefit?
Hey, Reverend Collins, what's your question?
Hold on.
What's your question?
Where are these crazy ideas coming from? Who thought of these ideas? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Give the community an academic plan of improvement. Let them vote on that. Let people give something to work with. Now you represent District 23 out there with Minnie Hughes.
No, sir, I represent the entire county. Don't
Yes, sir, but
ask your question, Reverend Collins.
You live among those people, sir, and you supported them tonight. And we're asking Kevin and I asking you to do the same thing. Support the residents of North Charleston the same way, and hold off on this. Include the community, include the parents, include the students. Ask you to hold off on this. Let's do what's good for the kids.
So, Dr. Postlethwaite, since Reverend Collins have sat on the board and have sat in meetings that we have had this discussion, can you help remind Reverend Collins of the discussions that we've had?
Yeah, yes, please do.
All right, there's no dog to remind.
I was there, please do. We were at North Charleston High School. You were at Lambs, we're at Goodwin, we're at Henley Park.
Thank you.
Dr. Postlethwaite.
So that the directive to try to make sure that we're spending our money more economically by putting more children on one campus came from the board initially, and then these recommendations began with the June 24th meeting and have been discussed at least generally, if not specifically, in every meeting since.
Reverend Matt, can I just real quickly just say, when you ask where are these crazy ideas coming from, Reverend Collins, and I'm sure not everybody wants to hear this, but since I was elected to the board in 2014, a number of other people were then too, others of you have been on longer, I have heard loud and clear from all of our constituents, we all represent the entire county, that they want to see their schools improved. And so I look at the changes that we're making today as ways to improve our schools, particularly for kids who don't feel like, or parents who don't feel like they're winning the jackpot with their neighborhood school. We need to have every school in this district be a school that can serve every single student and make every single student be able to achieve, go on to middle and high school, go to work, or go to school. That's where those ideas have come from.
So are you saying that
putting 1,500 kids in one location is serving them better?
I'm sorry, nobody's going to like this and they're going to boo me, but if you want your schools like Mount Pleasant, yeah, that's what you're going to do, because we won't have a school, you'd have one school under 500.
But we're not Mount Pleasant.
Well, you just said, Reverend Collins just said.
One person at a time, please.
Thank you.
Please be recognized.
I wasn't finished. Okay. But so, Ms. Darby, you're saying that your solution to educate these minority children is closing combined schools and put them under one roof. That gives them a better education by combining them.
I think
that's what you're saying?
I think in the instance that we're looking at today, in this particular item, we're going to build a state-of-the-art school that can offer more to the students at all 3 of these schools. And so in this particular instance, I think that makes the most sense. And the majority of whoever will vote on it, and we'll see. I don't necessarily think that's the case in every scenario, but in this scenario, I think that it will. And we'll work with the faculty and staff and parents from those 2 schools, and I call the question.
If you're offering, if you're offering a better education, no one would oppose that. You're not offering that.
I am offering
You're offering real estate. You're offering housing.
Reverend Kevin,
no, I'm sorry.
No,
You're not offering anything academically to help anybody. but simply combining children that we don't want to deal with and put them under one roof. And we don't do that to black kids. We don't do this to white children, anybody else, but African Americans. This has to stop.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes, and Reverend Collins, I was in Lambs Elementary 2 weeks ago and went through the whole school with the principal, and it is it's not 100% African American kids. You've got Latino kids, you've got white kids in there, you've got African American kids. So you're trying to stereotype 3 schools that does not exist. A second point,
that's not true.
Since the year 2000, we've had roughly 50,000 students in this district, and we've added 1 million square feet of buildings since then. We cannot and should not responsibly go back and rebuild a new school for every one of the 84 that we have in this district. We have roughly the same number of schools as they do in Greenville County, and they've got nearly 30,000 more students than we do. It is those dollars, those building dollars are real dollars that come out of what we can pay teachers, what we can pay principals, the resources we can put in the classroom. And as long as we continue to overbuild for a fewer number of kids, if we go and rebuild 3 schools where we really need one, you're going to be wasting dollars on operating expenses that are taken directly out of the classroom.
Wait a minute.
Jeffries?
Yeah.
Ms. Jeffries?
It's obvious.
And we wouldn't be talking about anything if the results were great right now for kids.
It's not the building.
We've tried.
It's not the building at all.
Yep.
Okay,
It's the
Reverend, Ms.
performance.
Jeffries?
Reverend Collins, I have something to say about what goes on inside schools. Some people like smaller schools, some people like larger schools. When you have a larger school, you can afford to hire more teachers to teach more subjects, to provide more programs, to have more guidance counselors. And instead of having something 1 day a week, you may have it 5 days a week. You're giving the students more opportunities in school.
We never done that for black kids, Priscilla. We don't do that for black kids.
I was a
No, we do
teacher
not.
in a
Reverend
large
Collins,
middle
please allow
school.
her to finish,
Yes,
please.
I will.
Thank you.
So that's just my opinion of why that's one of the arguments for why larger schools work.
I understand, but we don't do that for black kids.
All right.
It is obviously, it is important to realize the population in North Charleston is not getting any smaller. The migration in North Charleston is growing. But you want to shut down schools and sell real estate when you know the population is growing. So why are you going to shut the school down? It doesn't make any sense. Population not getting any smaller in North Charleston. You can look at the numbers.
In academic plan, improve
Enrollment, but
education.
the enrollment isn't.
Mr.
Academic
Chair,
plan.
can we have a
Please,
meeting
you-
where people speak about the issues
That's
and
right.
do it in an organized manner?
Yeah. The question have been called. We're ready to vote?
Yep.
All right.
Fast ready. I will stop.
It won't be the end of it, though.
Your vote.
You can go to North Charleston School, but you can't go to Perk.
That motion passes. Item 6C
What's the vote count, sir?
is right on your screen.
Can't see the bottom of it.
6-3.
6-3.
Item 6C.
I move to return the 5th grade students at Hot Gap to their zone school so that Hot Gap serves grades 6 through 8.
Second.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I voted no on this at the committee of the whole meeting, and I haven't found a reason to change my position, but I want to be clear, that's because I feel like that if we are going to truly create streamlined and organized education, and we say, well, we have to include one constituent district in this area, in this school because they don't have an academically advanced school, neither does North Charleston, but we're not including that in any of the other magnet school changes. So I approve and applaud the 6th through 8th grade. I approve and applaud the programming, but that one-off for another constituent district, there are other constituent districts that also don't have those opportunities.
Okay, thank you. All right. At this time now, we ask that you please cast your vote. That item passes 6-3. 6D.
I move to designate acceleration schools as those identified for state comprehensive support and improvement, state priority schools, schools with both overall unsatisfactory and overall student achievement ratings, and pre-K through 12 feeder patterns of schools with low performance, 15 CCSD schools, and direct administration to bring waivers essential to provide leaders of these schools greater autonomy for approval in December state board policy.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Hang on one second. You got something in addition to the motion you was reading?
No, I just wanted to comment on something, but
Okay,
go ahead.
Ms.
If Cindy
Coates.
has questions.
So to be clear, the existing leaders of these schools are going to be able to apply for a waivers with the State Department of Education. We don't have to go through another entity to do that. We can directly apply for those.
Yes and no. The leaders of those schools would have to come back to this board for
Right,
approval for the waivers.
but there's no state tag that says we can't directly, as the district, request those waivers.
There is not. The purpose of designating these schools tonight is absolutely not to tie them to any effort to privatize school or to bring in charter schools. It is.
How do you know?
Yes, please allow the superintendent, no outbursts, please. Allow the superintendent to make her statement. Thank you.
The purpose of identifying these schools tonight is threefold. First of all, to make sure that we include the leadership in these schools as we look at possible areas to request waivers from the state board. The second reason to identify them is that your policy CN requires that we take action when we have persistently low-performing schools. And the third reason to identify them tonight is to make sure that our district is putting these schools in a sort of intensive care condition in our school district. Mr. Kennedy and the Budget Preparation Committee are looking at a differentiated school allocation to make sure that the schools that need the most care get the most financial support, and that we change the funding formula, if possible, to get more supports to the schools that have the furthest to go. When you heard the presentation from the NWEA Insights report, you heard them talk about the connection between poverty and achievement that exists worldwide. You heard them say that if a child is one grade level behind, that for 5 years in a row, that child has to grow 1.2 years per year in order to catch up one grade level. And so they're called acceleration schools because we have to make sure that acceleration, the rate of learning for those students, is increasing by at least an average of 1.2 years per year. And that the effort is to make sure that the schools have the leaders and the teacher talent to do that. The earlier version of this guaranteed that every teacher, every principal will have a job, that it is not our intent to displace any of the teachers who are satisfactorily performing in our district. So these efforts to tie it with privatization inappropriately are simply not correct, and they're not helpful.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
If this motion is approved tonight,
Yes,
are you
ma'am.
saying that the district will be bringing to the board at our December meeting potential waivers?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying December is the target date. There's a lot to do between now and December, and if the principals of these schools are not able to agree, it might be January by the time we bring the waivers. But we have done some initial work on that. We have someone who's ready to meet with the principals as soon as the board says these are the schools that we think ought to go into this particular effort as we ask the state board for waivers.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may, one more, and I'm somewhat hesitant to ask that, but why do they have to be grouped into acceleration schools in order to do those waivers? Why can't they individually have that ability?
They could. The state just created a process for applying for the waivers that makes it more difficult than it was. They've just put that process in place. We received the memo today. It makes it easier on the schools if the district helps them by combining them and making the rationale for why we're asking for teachers and principals in these schools to have more operating latitude. The reasons that they need the opportunity to innovate, because none of them at the current time is averaging a 1.2 years of growth per year. Very few of our schools are.
Question. If you're asking for an acceleration of waiver status, then why are we going through the process of going through F? If that's the case, we're not trying to privatize or partner any schools.
Why are we going through what, I'm sorry?
Item F.
The vetting.
The vetting.
The vetting round one.
Because that is something that the board asked me to do separately. That was a board vote. You asked us to do that. The solicitation for interest went out as a result of a board vote. You don't have to, none of those schools has been accepted yet. None of the solicitation schools. You're setting up a committee to take a look at what came in. And the question would be, based on the people who serve on that committee, when you analyzed the data, when you went to visit those schools, did you see any school whose model you think would help us accelerate student learning more quickly than we're currently capable of doing it? The answer may very well be no. Or it could be we found one thing we think is worth pursuing. The answer could be we found something we think we could replicate ourselves. But the point is we cannot continue to do what we've always done. If you read our history for the past 20 years, we have come up with plans that look very much like the ideas that we've typically put on the table, and the results haven't occurred for our students.
Well, the district over 20-something years ago tried the Edson project, which is similar, and it failed. We spent millions of dollars in that project, and it didn't yield anything positive for the district. So it's kind of like we're doing the same thing again.
Well, if you invested in that particular project, that would be doing the same thing again. Another thing the district did, and this is what I think is frightening to people, the district tried a Meeting Street model, and the fact of the matter is Meeting Street is growing children at a much faster rate than we are. When we look at the numbers, the percentages of students.
The data doesn't show that, though. I mean,
the data do show that.
There are district schools that have the same term.
Chair, I would prefer that we not interrupt people
fine.
when they're talking.
All right.
Okay.
Ms. Darby?
I'm fine.
Real quickly, because this has come up, Dr. Postaway, in these 15 acceleration schools, with the action that we've taken today, any teacher or principal have to worry about their job?
Absolutely not. In none of our schools will teachers or principals have to worry about their jobs. There is a national teacher shortage.
Right.
There are always reasons why we might need to work in a different role, but everybody who's in these schools is promised their job at the current salary, regardless of their current position, if they have a satisfactory evaluation. And there is no plan to disrupt teachers, but I don't want to say that that wouldn't happen because I don't know what the ultimate outcome might be.
Got it. Call for question.
Reverend Collins? The question has been called, but Reverend Collins, go ahead.
I just want to deal with the solicitation for a minute that went out. Then I'll ask a couple of questions. I'm going to read it first.
Talk about the solicitation when we're at that,
is not acceleration.
when we're at that action item.
Yes.
No, not that part. This part is important to clear this up. The Charleston County South Carolina School District.
Does it deal with item 6D, Reverend Collins?
Yes,
Okay.
seeks qualified individuals, or entities with a proven track record, increasing student achievement by providing comprehensive educational and administrative management.
That's not item.
That's
That's
item F.
That's
So
not.
one or more low-performing elementary, middle, and high schools, beginning start of school year 2021. So the solicitation calls for management. I'm not saying what you're doing tonight. The solicitation calls for management companies to run the schools.
Reverend Collins.
15 schools.
Item 6D. I just need you to be in
This
order.
pertains to it, sir.
Okay, well, ask your question, please.
This pertains to it. Now, for example, we use a similar operation as Meeting Street at Burns and Meeting Street at Brentwood. This year, Meeting Street schools.
It's not about.
Hold on a minute, please.
I know, but Reverend Collins, this doesn't.
Meeting Street
Just
schools will get.
hold 1 second. We'll bring it to closure in a
I'm
minute.
going
Reverend
to bring to you.
Collins,
I'm going to be quick.
please ask your
Meeting
question.
Street schools will get about $15 million between Brentwood and Burns, okay? Now, Brentwood, Meeting Street at Brentwood this year has started out with 134 first grade students, 134. By the end of this year, they're
Point of
looking
order, this has nothing.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
On the next item,
just
yes,
one
that's
second,
relevant.
guys. Just one
But that
second.
is not relevant to
Yes,
this.
sir, it is
to this
relevant.
vote.
It is relevant right now. You don't wanna hear the truth.
Please,
No, but
please.
It's relevant.
Board members, please, order.
Right now, it's relevant.
Look, if we don't require order at this moment,
Yes, sir.
then we will recess this meeting until you are able to gather yourselves as appropriate board members tonight.
All right, so just give me 90 seconds
So,
to finish.
Reverend Collins, ask your question that's related to item 6D that's in discussion, or else the question have already been called, and we will go and vote. I'm allowing you the opportunity to ask your question.
So,
Do ask your question right now.
The acceleration program is similar to what we're proposing with the Meeting Street Academy now.
No.
So, when I said 134 kids started out in first grade, only 68 of them go to fifth grade. But basically half the kids from first grade, they lose half the kids by the time they come out of school in fifth grade.
Reverend Collins, ask your question. This is the last time.
We spent almost $8 million at Brentwood alone. And Brentwood, only 56 kids graduated out of fifth grade. So we say it's working. The data is not reflecting that the kids that started out from kindergarten and first grade was over 100 students, and we wound up with 56 by the time they come out of the fifth grade. We're not getting anywhere. We're losing ground. Only less than half the kids.
Board members, the question have been called. As chairman, I ask now that you cast your vote to the question that has been already seconded.
So why then are we considering round one, why are we considering this if what we're doing now is not working? The data is not accurate nor reflected. I mean, some of you may be upset.
Reverend
but I'm
Collins, you have
telling
an
you the truth.
opportunity to vote on this item, or we will
I'm
move
going
on.
to vote, sir, but we're still playing games. The ministry is not producing what we say it's producing. With less than half the kids graduating. They're not doing the data. Anybody can graduate half the kids in the class and have good grades.
Reverend Collins, you would have to cast your vote, or we will move
I'll
on.
cast my vote.
Thank you.
But we still have to deal with the facts. So we're lying to ourselves.
We're not.
We are privatizing. But you're not lying to me.
Items passed 6-3. Now we're on item
Move
6F.
to direct administration to proceed with vetting 5 round 1 solicitation for interest proposals and open round 2 solicitation for interest through December 10th.
Second.
Properly moving second on item 6F. Are there any questions in relation to item 6F?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
when will the committee be announced?
So tonight, I will officially announce, once this item has passed, I will announce who will serve as the board members that will serve on this committee, and the district leader who will chair this committee as well. So once we vote, I will announce those individuals.
Thank you.
So Reverend Mack, yes, sir, you guys may be a little heated. I said, but what we're doing goes hand in hand with Meeting Street model, what we're doing now in these schools, and the vetting process, sir. And even though some disagree, some don't want to read and understand, that's their business, but we're deceiving ourselves, but we're not deceiving the people.
Question?
We're sitting here as liars and voting.
Reverend Collins, do you have a question?
We need to stop that. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. And especially you as the board chairman, you ought to really be ashamed of yourself.
Board members, we ask that you please cast your vote.
Chris Frazier has a question.
I'm sorry.
Could you explain how committee members will be asked to participate in this process, and how many would we expect of the committee?
So there will be
of the community?
Yep, there will be 3 board representatives that will be appointed by the board chair, and I will appoint that if this item passes tonight. There will be 3 educators to be appointed by the superintendent, 5 parents and/or community members to be jointly appointed by the board officers. District leader will chair this vetting committee, which will be appointed by the superintendent. We'll announce that tonight if this item passes. And then these recommendations regarding the next steps for round 1 respondents will be presented to the board in December.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
To be clear, I'm not expecting that there is going to be a presentation from the committee that says, we would like you to enter into this contract, voted up or down. Is that what's going to happen in January?
So the district leader, which will be appointed by the superintendent, will be the one chairing this committee that will give guidance as to how these items will be vetted out. And the committee then will come together, Dr. Postlewaite, if I'm understanding to be correctly, and make a recommendation back to the board.
Right, and the recommendation is just the next steps. You may recommend going to visit a couple of schools as next
Right, they're not
steps,
going
or
to
you
come
may-
back and say, we've done the research, and there will be an agenda excuse me, I'm so sorry, I just burped in front of 1,000 people. But there will be, I'm expecting this to say, we've had these discussions, we think you ought to do the next thing, board. And I don't think that means we've had these discussions, we think you ought to vote on this item tonight. I don't see us getting to that between now and January. Is that accurate?
I don't know what can get done between now and January, but I know between now and December, there's no way that could happen. Whatever the next step is, it is.
Okay.
It could be that, 3 examples. We've proceeded far enough to know that we're not recommending any of these continue. We recommend going to visit one, or it could be we've found something that we think would be ideal, and we've talked to the parents and educators at a particular school, and we'd like to see this school have a chance to look at this program. There's no predetermined course of action, Mrs. Coates.
Thank you. Oh.
Okay, board members, I ask that you please cast your vote.
After the vote, I'd like to respond to just an explanation to some of the information that was given so that we don't leave a misimpression.
Okay. That motion passes 7-2. Since that item passes tonight, the 3 board members that will serve on this committee will be myself, Ms. Coates, and Ms. Jeffries. The district leader that will chair this vetting committee will be Ms. Robin Jones. And as we move forward, Dr. Postway.
Thank you. Reverend Collins, I just wanted to explain 2 things. The amount of funds that go to Meeting Street are determined by the Meeting Street's contract with the board. And the contract that Meeting Street has with the board says that the per pupil allocation for Meeting Street will be exactly the same as the average of the per pupil expenditure by the board in between 3 and 5, I don't recall the exact number, high poverty schools that are very similar in demographics to Meeting Street. So every single year that calculation occurs and Meeting Street receives the average of what our other schools that are similarly situated receive. And secondly, the numbers in the early grades at Meeting Street contain both Meeting Street at Brentwood and Meeting Street at Burns, because Meeting Street at Brentwood was serving the Burns early elementary children. So those inflated numbers are all listed under Meeting Street at Brentwood, but it was not until this year that we separated out for Burns. So when you look at the budget, you'll see an allocation for this year, for fiscal year.
I see it, $3.8 million for Burns.
You'll see the Burns children separated out, but when you look at the enrollment figures, you're seeing Burns and Meeting Street together. The 5th grade class is the largest class that they actually have of Meeting Street at Brentwood, so they retain children as well as or better than any other school.
But you understand the point I was making? Is that even though what you said, the Burns kids came in early on, but the kids that were in those grades, they all dropped off. By the time they get to 3rd and 4th and 5th grade, they dropped off tremendously. And we need to see where those kids are going and why are they still in the school. And we just opened Burns this year. We have $3.8 million in the budget for Burns for this year.
Right.
But Meeting Street gets almost $11 million for about 600-some kids, which is higher than all the allocations in Charleston County.
Which is $7,000 or $8,000 per child.
Much higher than anybody else gets.
No, sir, it isn't.
No, it's
When
not.
you look at the budget, it is. It is in the
But
budget.
what I'm telling
Look at
you
it for yourself.
is that the
I know.
numbers
We
that
have
you
the budget.
quoted were for early grades, were actually children who were sitting over at the Burns
I
building
understand
that
what
were
you're saying.
served,
I
or
understand you.
sitting on the Burns rolls, but were served at Brentwood. So their students don't drop off in enrollment.
No, it's
When would you just a quick question, when would you be sure of teachers' outcomes of their jobs? When would that be
when we
certain?
make a vote. The only time that would happen would be if the board voted.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, let Dr. Postlewaite answer that question.
What was the question?
Kevin,
Mr.
ask
Hollenshed?
that again.
When will we have a certain determination about teachers' jobs?
About teachers' jobs?
Yeah. And dealing with these schools, and as we make changes and then file for waivers, when are we gonna be certain of that?
So the board would have to vote on waivers. That takes a vote of the board. That request has to go to the state board. That takes a vote of the state board. And you can have several waivers without ever impacting a teacher's job. You could have waivers on
Start date.
certification of teachers. You could have waivers on the start date. You could have waivers on the amount of instructional minutes per week that have to be spent on certain items. There are about 5 different key areas that you could ask for waivers on that don't have anything to do with teacher contracts. That's entirely up to the board. And if you decide to have a vote on teacher contract waiver, or if you decide that you like some model that would require a vote like that, that vote would have to occur by February so that teachers could be informed and HR could work with teachers, because we've promised every teacher a job. That's entirely controlled by the board, Mr. Hollenshed.
What waivers are you asking for? What waivers are you asking for?
Sorry. Next item up is 6H.
You're in a hurry.
6G.
We've already voted on the matter.
I know you're in a hurry.
G.
Yeah.
Reverend Collins, I would prefer that if we talked about
Okay,
the
item-
issues and not accuse Todd of something, please.
Right.
The mastermind behind the plans, that's all.
All right, guys, item 6G.
Yeah, I move to authorize the administration to request entities that have asked to develop significant partnerships with schools submit program implementation plans, including any policy waiver requests for the board's consideration by January 3rd, 2020.
Is there a
So-
second?
Second.
Okay, it's probably moving second. Are there any questions?
This would be the engaging creative minds wishing to expand what they're already doing at schools, and then the potential teacher development supports.
Yes.
Engaging creative minds at Sanders Clyde specifically.
Right.
The College of Charleston Teacher Residency and the University of Virginia Leadership Training Program.
This is G, right?
Item 6G.
G,
Yes.
6G.
So not the other entities that on the list, not those?
So
Not supposed to. There's just creative minds only, and not the other entities?
Yep. Reverend Collins, your background discussion that you've been handed and since
I'm
last.
looking right at it. I'm clarifying, sir.
Right. It's
Are
all
we
listed
talking
there.
about creative minds, or are we talking about all the groups on the list?
All those on the list, right there.
Right there, Reverend.
That's what you were saying. Okay.
yeah, it is exactly what I was saying, and the
Exactly what you
innovative
said.
partnership
Yes.
is College of Charleston.
Yes,
If you
it's all
read your,
listed
Yeah,
there.
all
if you read your
groups, yeah,
materials,
all the
right?
groups.
So is the expectation that they come back with a proposal for us to decide whether to enter into an agreement with them, or?
The expectation is that they come back with an implementation plan that was outlined in the materials, and if they're asking for any waivers, that they would need to get the board's permission for waivers.
Okay.
Okay.
Call the question.
All right, we ask that you please cast your votes. Can I motion passes 7-2?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve in partnership with College of Charleston and establish an academic advance program at West Ashley High School for students in D10 and D20.
Second.
It's been probably moving second. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Darby?
Dr. Postaway, can you just clarify, I think there was some confusion about D20 students and what their opportunities were for this program at West Ashley?
Right. The intent is that students who enroll at Burke High School could continue to take the 2 advanced placement courses that would be offered at Burke High School. If they wanted to take additional advanced placement courses, they could be bused to, or if they have their own transportation, to West Ashley High School to take the additional advanced placement courses and then return and remain enrolled in Burke High School. The other option would be if you're a D20 student who's ready to go directly into advanced placement offerings full day, you could enroll in that program to start with without going through the transfer process. So
Question.
that students in D20 would have both opportunities.
So they, can I just?
Just
so
one
they-
second, Ms.
They'd
Holmes.
be, if they went directly into it, they'd be a West Ashley High School student. They wouldn't have to go back and forth. There's both options.
They would not. We have to keep that straight with the South Carolina High School
Right.
League.
Okay.
Mr. Hollis?
Secondly, how would that work for a student traveling from Burke High School, either by personal car or by bus, to West Ashley High? Should be about, what, a 30-minute drive? So how would that work with their class schedule, and then instructional time and turnaround time?
So the way it works, most places where they have half-day programs and coordinate among high schools is that the master schedules have to be arranged to work together to allow for that travel time. We'll have to do that at each of the Centers for Advanced Studies, the one that's in the Mount Pleasant area, the one that's in the North Charleston area serving multiple schools, and the one at West Ashley High School. So we'll have to have those school schedules synchronized among the high schools who are serving the centers.
They couldn't do it over, I guess, a teleconference like they do at Baptist Hill?
Some courses can be delivered that way if the school has the equipment and the timing can be set up. We can't offer this, and so of course we would take advantage of that where we can, but we can't offer the total array of advanced placement offerings via teleconference.
Okay. Reverend Collins.
So Dr. Postlewaite, for the families that live downtown Charleston, and you have the Burke High School right there with lots of space in it, why couldn't the Charleston operate the program at Burke certain days of the week, and the other days operate at West Ashley? Why couldn't it be a compromise? That way no one has to bus no one.
So we talked about this some last time, and what that might happen eventually. Right now, we have to build up the numbers of students at Burke High School who are passing advanced placement courses. We don't have enough who pass advanced placement courses yet for the College of Charleston to make it feasible to offer the whole contingent of courses there. But if there are enough downtown students who qualify, that eventually could happen.
I was thinking if you put the more advanced placement courses in the school, you probably draw some of the other families around the school that don't go tend to go down. They may start coming. I had a family told me just last week that if you put the programs in our schools in North Charleston, so we don't care what color the kids are, we're coming. If you put the programs there, we'll come. And I know the programs aren't there, so that's why I said, well, if to put the program at Burke also.
Off question.
Okay. Question have been called. Please cast your vote. Can that motion passes 6-3. Item 6I.
I move to direct the administration to locate all constituent District 10, which is West Ashley, sixth graders on the, well, hold on. Motion to direct the administration to locate all constituent District sixth graders on the West Ashley Middle School campus or a better sixth grade academy location, which we've talked about, and create a 7th to 8th grade middle school on the C.E. Williams campus at West Ashley High School, effective for the 2020-21 school year. This action supports the D10 constituent board's request.
Okay, is there a second?
Got a question?
I'll second.
So can I just explain? So
Hang on one second, just 1 second. It's been properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
So
Ms. Darby?
Can I explain? So when I've heard feedback from people, I think there was concern about the state or the condition of the West Ashley Middle School campus. And I talked with Mr. Broe, and I think our plan had been in the past that C.E. Williams was getting a brand-new school on the West Ashley High School campus next to the high school, and that our plan was to move West Ashley Middle School students to a renovated St. Andrews, or Mr. Broe, can you refresh my memory what that was? Do you mind if I?
There was discussion of that in the next building program.
Okay, so.
Creating another middle school campus in the next building program.
So my motion would be, my motion and what I'm trying to accomplish is that the 7th and 8th graders go to the middle school on the C.E. Williams campus, and that for next year, probably the 6th graders go to West Ashley Middle, but that we work in the next capital buildings program to come up with the best location in some new space, renovated space for a 6th grade academy. That's what I want to accomplish in my motion. I don't want to say that have to be in
Please.
the
No outbursts.
middle school location. That was my.
Officers, please remove that individual from the audience. Thank you.
much.
Okay, please, Ms. Darby, if you can, we can please have order so that we can continue the business of the district. Thank you.
I'm good. I'm done.
All right.
I was waiting next, sir.
All right, Mr. Garrett, you had seconded that motion. Are you clear on the motion that was
Yes.
made?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ms. Green?
Yeah, I just want to find out, should this pass the process? Like, what are the steps to making it happen? I mean, what would happen next?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Dr. Williams, do you want to address, did you hear Ms. Green's question?
Can you repeat it, please, ma'am?
No, I don't remember it. Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea on process. If this was to pass, obviously it wouldn't immediately happen, but what would happen? Where would be the opportunity to get community involvement, parents' input, that kind of thing?
And speaking with Mr. Lewis, we definitely want to wait and see what happens tonight, of course, but next steps will be involving some community members and parents, because there were some things brought up about uniforms, for instance, and what type of program we use at the middle school, but also the name of West Ashley, because there's an opportunity to possibly look at the name. Also, we did reach out to a few principals, one in Aiken and one in Columbia, that have, sixth grade schools, or sixth grade academies, and the plan would be to take some of the parents with us as well, so we can visit those schools now.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further questions? Reverend Collins?
My concern is, it was obvious motion, and we have a lot of emails on the topic. We had a lot of people tonight speaking about the merger.
Yeah.
And the merger doesn't have any parental support other than the constituent board. I don't know how we put together any plans that lack public support and public input, expect it to work. So I think it's kind of hasty to move forward on that again tonight, as we've done on these other items. Why don't we just consider pulling that off the table for now and reconsider it? We're not really offering, I don't see we're offering an academic plan that's better than what the kids are receiving now. That's really the key for me, a better academic plan.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, so we have to move with that motion first. If that motion fails, then we can go to the next step. Is there any further questions?
I think what surprised me the most in this process is that C.E. Williams automatically accepts the students out of St. Andrews Math and Science, which is a partial magnet, which is not North Charleston only. And then it does that also for Ashley River Creative Arts. I think that could be creating this pipeline problem that perhaps the board wasn't aware of. And I can certainly tell you that if those things exist, then North Charleston gets automatic seats at C.E. Williams. I don't know why that art school would be left off the table. So if we want to go another route and put all the arts elementary schools automatically into C.E. Williams, which will take up all the seats and lets the D10 board rezone, we could go down that route. But I think we've got a real issue when we've got two schools that automatically take those seats in that school without having to go through the magnet process. Would we be willing to have some discussions about making it a true partial magnet school at C.E. Williams, where you apply or you live in the zone, period?
Okay.
North Charleston doesn't get that sort of guarantee into the next level of an of a arts infused school.
All right. Any further questions?
Call the question. Call the question.
Question has been called. We ask that you please cast your vote. Motion passes. Item 6J.
I move to direct the administration to study the feasibility of creating one Montessori middle school, creating the feasibility of one Montessori middle school to house 7th and 8th grade students from Murray Lassane, James Simmons, Hersey, and Montessori community schools for 2020-21 if facility and transportation challenges can be overcome, Also, the feasibility of offering a 7-12 Montessori program could be studied.
This is 21, 22.
Right. This is 21, 22, so that's the question.
Sorry about that, let me see.
21, 22.
21, 22, my bad, I have a hard time with the whole 21, 21 dash 2022, my bad.
Can you read the last sentence again, Kate, so I can hear?
So I do think that is the question. The motion is to direct the administration to study the feasibility, and it says for 2021.
Ms. Coates, let me get a second on that motion
Okay.
first before we discuss any further. Is there a second on the motion that Ms. Darby just gave?
So my motion should be for 2021 dash 2022.
So I'll second for the
Okay.
purposes of discussion. But if you read the action item, it does, I think what the problem is, I don't know what to expect after we vote for this, because it says motion to direct the administration to study the feasibility. We're all looking at that first paragraph that says recommended action, and it says for 2021. And then if you go down into our background in discussion, it references
21,
22.
I changed it.
No,
Oh.
you changed, but both dates are in your packet.
Oh.
So are we looking at the feasibility of doing this in the 2021 school year, or are we looking at getting studying it for the rest of this year?
Okay, is that a question of Dr. Williams?
Supposed to wait.
Right, so
Whomever,
Yep.
sir.
I don't know that we could do this by 2021. I think that typo probably goes back to my fault, just not paying attention to the dates. If the parents who are helping take a look at this can help find a spot, we could possibly come back to you with something sooner, but I don't think that we could work out the facility and the transportation and the logistics for Montessori middles. But the idea would be, if we can find a spot, to create a space for Montessori middles. Those parents are also interested in thinking about a Montessori high, and then opening up additional seats in the Montessoris for the pre-K through 6.
Mr. Frazier?
To approve a feasibility study. This isn't saying
Right,
that
just
they're
fe-
going to.
Correct.
They're not going to
feasibility.
come back and say, we studied it, we like it, and we want to do it in August. That's,
No.
Correct.
okay.
All right, Mr. Frazier?
That was my clarification, because it says this is pending available funding and board approval, so this is only authorizing the look, nothing further.
Right, the study.
Correct.
That's all it's authorizing, is studying.
Call the question.
All right, it's been properly moved and second question has been called. Please cast your vote. All right, that motion passes. Item 6K.
I move to direct the administration to study and report to the board by February 2020 the feasibility of combining, merging, and/or rezoning within the next 3 to 5 years all schools with fewer than 500 students.
Second.
Been properly moved and second.
This is
Question?
voting to have them produce a report.
Just a report, that's
Right.
all it is. And I would just say, as the person making the motion, I acknowledge, and I've been very public about saying that in the urban areas of the community, we need to have elementary schools that are at least 500, but there are going to be exceptions to
areas.
that. There are rural areas that we cannot do that, but we have too many schools that are too close, that are really close together, and we should look at the feasibility of that. So it's only the study.
Okay. Are
And
there-
Mr. Chair, I would ask that when we do meet with the legislative delegation, that we bring for them their staffing that doesn't allow staffing at certain levels, so that they can see this, what we're up against, and have that conversation, because we are a district that is rural, but we are considered by Columbia to be an urban wealthy district, and we need some sort of support for rural schools that are in lower population areas, and I think that we need to bring that conversation to the table.
That's a good point.
Okay. All right, any further questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, that motion passes 7-2. Item 7A.
I move to approve second reading of policy GBC.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. That motion passes. Item 7B.
I'm sorry, I moved to approve. Are we on second reading? I'm struggling to find this. Is policy GCC second reading?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, then I moved to approve second reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Reverend Collins?
Why does this policy always come up so often? We worked on it before.
That we're combining all those
I
needs.
think if you look at the dates of the last time these were approved, they haven't come up in the last 5 or 7 years.
We did staff leave, absence, we did, yes, we have.
We're combining.
Might have changed the numbers.
Well, I mean, you can look at the dates and we can have that conversation. It's not, we don't have to remember.
Yeah.
Reverend Collins, you have another question?
I know we worked on it several times in the past.
Okay.
I was wondering why we keep working on it.
All right. All right, we ask that you please cast your vote. Has everyone cast a vote?
It was unanimous.
It was unanimous?
It was unanimous.
Move to
Yep.
HBF.
Item
Second.
7C has been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Coates? Oh, she's gone, okay. She's done.
Ready for the next one?
Not yet.
You want to vote on?
Right now.
Okay, that item passes. Item 7D.
I'd like to make a motion that the naming committee recommended that the new CAS be named Cooper River Institute of Technology, but I'd like to make a motion that we name it the Cooper River Center for Advanced Studies to match the other Center for Advanced Studies that we're going to have in the district.
Second.
I was, but so if I can just explain, when, we got a second, so can I explain?
Right.
So when this came to the committee of the whole, we had a lot of discussion and about it and about what the name, there was some discussion, and we said we'd talk about it again tonight. And we're going to have 3 Center for Advanced Study buildings or Center for Advanced, I'm sorry? Centers, thank you, I couldn't think of the word center. So 1 east of the Cooper, 1 North Charleston, and 1 West Ashley. And feedback I've gotten is that it makes sense for all 3 of them to be called Center for Advanced Studies, and then whatever defining name. Cooper River is what D4 has been called for many, many, many years. So that's why I made that motion.
Oh, you did well.
And so I have a question.
Yes.
So what about the committee that we asked to bring us this information? Are they okay with this recommendation?
So Eric, Dr. Postaway.
So, I don't know if this has been referred back to the committee, or is the committee is even aware of this recommendation. Am I correct to say that?
Correct. They are aware that we presented the, yes, sir, correct.
Okay.
So I was going to make a motion to send it back to the committee and recommend that they do it as the CAS. Would that be better? Because I can pull that motion back.
Right. So in discussion, that's exactly what I was going to suggest, that since we had established a committee, they recommended the Cooper River Institute of Technology that we send back to the actual committee of a recommendation from the board for consideration so that they can in turn send it back with their approval, since we've already established a committee.
That work, Ms. Taylor?
Yes, it will.
Okay, so I pull back my motion, and I would like to make another motion I move to send back to the naming committee to look at options so that all 3 centers will have the same Center for Advanced Studies designation.
Thank you, Ms. Darby. You did very well.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Are there any further questions on item?
So the motion on the table is to send it back.
To the committee with the recommendation of North Charleston Center for Advanced Studies. Request that you please cast your vote.
I'm good. I agree.
That motion passes. Item 8A.
So, you want to do audit finance?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Item 8A.
First item up is capital budget reallocation. You have the details in your packet.
We'll make a motion.
I move to approve it, please.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Okay, Ms. Coates.
With the allocations where it is reducing, are the projects completed?
They may not be completely finished, but there's enough resources to complete that work.
And they will be completed forthwith? Okay.
Forthwith.
I'm sorry, Ms.
Although I
Green.
just said forthwith. I
I'm
have
just
no idea
repeating
what that means.
forthwith.
Okay.
Look that up.
Please cast your vote. Mr. Hollenshed.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, that motion passes. Item 8B.
The next item up is refunding of CEIF's installment purchase revenue bonds. What this does is gives our lawyer and bond advisor the ability to go out and refinance if it saves us at least 5%. So over the next roughly year.
I move to approve that.
Second?
So may I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we able to, is this refinancing going to retire any debt, any of the bonds off, or?
Currently, and I've got my notes on the back here, currently we're retiring roughly 40 to 50 million. I'm looking
So what this does is,
annually.
So we had 300 and something million plus another 60 something million. I think
Right,
that was.
right.
And so what out of the total amount that was outstanding, we're proposing to refund 281.8 on 2013 and 68.8 on the 2014 issuance. And with the stipulation that we have up to a year to do this, in terms of the market conditions being right. So if you recall, last month we issued a refund of about 24 million. We saved $1.4 million.
Okay.
That's about 6%. And so at 5% here, at a minimum, we would accrue $18 million roughly.
And this gives you the flexibility to jump in and make that decision when the situation is best, rather than having to come back to us at that moment.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank
Like
you.
about, for example, like 3 weeks ago, market conditions were right.
Right,
But
he
they
needed
didn't
to
have the
have, he
authorization.
needed to have the authorization to
Yep.
retire that debt. Okay.
You said that saved about $18 million?
18 million.
Is there any further questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote.
Okay.
Principals, principal salary.
Okay.
Ms. Green?
We're ready for the next item?
No, Ms. Green need to cast her vote.
Okay.
Sorry. Hold on. Can you do it? Okay.
The next item up, I move to approve the recommended salary structure for position of principal at the elementary, middle, and high school level, retroactive to July 1st, 2019.
Second.
We're properly moving second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Bless you. Yeah, I think they got air conditioning on or something. That motion passes. Item 8D.
That's just for
Information.
your information regarding our SWMB BE report.
Is there any questions about item 8D or item 8E? Okay, is there any public comments for non-agenda items,
Yeah, we
Darby?
did them all
Okay.
at that same time.
All right.
I think, I mean, I think we did. Yes.
Okay, just as a reminder of the upcoming meeting, we will be meeting with the local delegation on December the 13th at 10 a.m. We'll have a joint committee of the whole and regular board meeting on December the 16th. And our next committee of the whole following thereafter will be in January 2020 and the regular board meeting on January 27th. I will entertain a motion.
Reverend Mack, before we adjourn.
Yes.
I feel like on the West Ashley merger, I'd like some more information, and while I know it passed this evening, I don't think we have enough fleshed out data completely, so I'd like to ask the superintendent if she would bring back a little more definitive information at our next meeting so that we have some more dialogue around it.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
all right.
And,
Hold 1 second.
okay, no, I was just clarifying on, okay, got it, okay.
All right. All right, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
We'll move.
So move.